This fall, along with the traditional Apple launch conference, iPhone 15 arrived as scheduled. However, unlike the excitement in previous years, this time the iPhone 15 obviously did not receive the expected welcome in China. According to statistics, the return rate of this new mobile phone has increased significantly compared with previous generations of products. For a time, the voice about iPhone 15 being cold in China became a hot topic on major social platforms. Cook is obviously very disappointed with this phenomenon. In the past, whenever a new iPhone was released, it would trigger a wave of rush buying, but this anomaly obviously caught Cook off guard. The disappointment of Apple fans is also reflected in Cook's anxiety about this sales decline. It has to be said that for such an important market, such data is undoubtedly a heavy blow to Apple and Cook. And this series of unsatisfactory events does not end there. In an interview with the media, Cook mentioned a new color launched for iPhone 15-green. Although his original intention was to hope that this color would bring a new experience to users, the name caused quite a bit of controversy in the Chinese market. As we all know, green has a less positive connotation in the Chinese internet context, and the color nicknamed Green Hat represents betrayal. This kind of naming is obviously not loved by Chinese consumers, but makes many people feel a little embarrassed. What was even more embarrassing was that one weekend not long ago, an own incident suddenly broke out at the Apple retail store in Sino-US, Shanghai. It is understood that due to the negligence of store staff, a batch of new accessories that have not yet been officially launched were mistakenly placed on the shelves and purchased by some consumers. This incident quickly attracted widespread attention on social media and became the object of ridicule by many people. The iPhone 15 is afraid that it will no longer be sold. Faced with such continuous negative news, Cook is obviously aware of the seriousness of the problem. At a public event a month later, he quickly courted China, announcing that 95% of Apple products would still be produced in China. He said, "China is not only an important consumer market for Apple, but also China's most important production base. China cherishes its cooperative relationship with China and will strengthen cooperation between the two parties in the future to ensure that it provides the highest quality products to Chinese consumers." These remarks obviously received a positive response from Chinese consumers. Many people expressed the hope that Apple can truly pay attention to the Chinese market, not only in the production process, but also in product design, naming, promotion and other aspects to be closer to the needs and preferences of Chinese consumers. The relationship between Apple and China can be said to have gone through vicissitudes of life and is full of complex emotions. Going back several years ago, when the US government strongly advocated the strategy of decoupling the Chinese economy, many large companies around the world, including Apple, were affected by this overall situation. At that time, discussions about the deglobalization of China's economy were raging, and many companies began to consider moving their production bases from China to other countries. Apple made a major decision choosing India as its new manufacturing base. This move undoubtedly brings huge opportunities to the Indian economy and has also attracted widespread attention from the global electronics manufacturing industry. Of course, transferring the industrial chain is not something that can be accomplished overnight. It involves not only the migration of production equipment, but also a series of complex issues such as technology, talent, and supply chain. Shortly after news broke that Apple had chosen India as its new manufacturing base, Foxconn founder Terry Gou issued a statement pointing out Apple's deep dependence on China. He pointed out that although Apple hopes to move part of its industrial chain to India, it will be difficult for Apple to completely get rid of its dependence on China in the short term due to China's complete industrial chain and efficient production capabilities. This statement undoubtedly poured cold water on Apple's decision to shift its industrial chain. In fact, Cook also admitted in a subsequent public event that Apple is indeed deeply dependent on the Chinese market. He predicted that in the next few years, Apple will only be able to transfer 25% of its production capacity to India by 2025. This data coincides with Terry Go's statement and further proves China's core position in global electronics manufacturing. But China's impact on Apple goes far beyond that. As the world's largest smartphone market, China brings huge sales to Apple. Whenever a new iPhone is released, China is the main force in Apple sales. From industrial chain to sales, China almost runs through Apple's entire business chain. Despite all the uncertainties in the global economic landscape, the close relationship between Apple and China cannot be shaken. China has become Apple's largest supplier. Many key components, such as screens, chips, etc., are produced in China. This kind of partnership has deeply affected Apple's production and sales strategies. Change is always rapid, and previous hegemons may inadvertently lose their position, while former challengers may emerge as new leaders. In the field of smartphones, both Apple and Huawei have experienced similar fates. Especially in recent years, Apple's predicament and Huawei's rise have triggered countless discussions. Since the launch of the iPhone 15 series, Apple has continued to face doubts from the public and experts. Although Apple has historically been known for its superior product quality and exquisite craftsmanship, the iPhone 15 seems to break this tradition. From hardware to software, from battery life to performance, many users have discovered various small to large problems. This constant controversy has undoubtedly brought unprecedented challenges to Apple. Huawei's Mate 60 series has successfully returned to the market and has been warmly welcomed by consumers. Compared with Apple, Huawei emphasized that more than 90% of its mobile phone parts are supplied domestically. Huawei has achieved a high degree of independence and localization. But Huawei's success is not just reflected in product sales. BYD's OEM products for Huawei have encountered a shortage of supply, which shows that the popularity of Huawei's products far exceeds expectations. Apple's predicament didn't come out of the blue. In fact, Apple began to shift its supply chain long before the launch of iPhone 15. This decision may be related to the decline in product quality. The proportion of American parts in the iPhone 15 has actually increased, while the proportion of Chinese parts has dropped sharply. Although this kind of supply chain adjustment may bring cost advantages in the short term, in the long term, it may affect the overall quality and stability of the product. Looking back at the development of the entire smartphone industry, whether it is Apple or Huawei, the strategies and decisions behind them are full of countless stories. Apple's plight and Huawei's rise reflect the changes and opportunities in the global economic, technological, and cultural context. But no matter what, the competition in the technology industry will never stop, and the competition between these two giants in the future will also bring more excitement to China.